Welcome to my attempt at getting invited to film festivals. 2022 was an especially good year for film, much better than 2021 in my opinion. We got a good mixture of thought-provoking films, but also good old-fashioned blockbuster fun. And both are mixed into this spoiler-free list. And obviously, quick disclaimer, this list is 100% objective, and any dissenting opinions will be silenced by force. With that being said, let's get into some honorable mentions. Here they are, and as you can see, there are a lot of goodies that were good, but just didn't make the cut. And now let's get into number 10. People say that The Fabelmans celebrates filmmaking, and I agree for the most part. Seeing the impact of film on not only our protagonist's life, but also the lives of the audience make up some of the best scenes in the film. But it's not just a simple message about celebrating film, but it's also about the sacrifices you have to make in order to pursue your passions. The film touches on this conflict between family and artistic pursuits, and the question of which to pursue in life. We see characters in the movie that are artistic and are motivated and creative, but ultimately their social lives run into barriers as a result, because art requires time and effort. A lot of time and effort. And that time and effort is then taken away from spending time with others. Obviously this isn't always the case, but the film does a good job of showing us how this can be the case. All being presented through a coming-of-age story about a boy following his own passion and the impact of his family on his pursuits. There's also an interesting family drama at play and a pretty straightforward high school story here. But ultimately it's this tension between family and art that makes me really appreciate this film. Alright, let's state the obvious, Brendan Fraser's performance is amazing. If anything, it's probably the biggest draw this movie has for people, and I really hope he gets that Oscar win. Even subtle stuff like the way he breathes and how his eyes move greatly impact your perception of this character. And the story surrounding this character is pretty tragic. I mean, it's pretty much a character study movie. You're just sitting there and you're like, damn, there's just no hope anywhere. Now, what makes this movie a bit better for me were the religious themes that I honestly wish were fleshed out a bit more, but because they weren't, that gives me more to think about, if that makes sense. That's probably a big complaint people will have with this film, that the themes of redemption and authenticity and religion, they just aren't as deeply explored as you may want them to be, and I agree for the most part, but that is until the ending, which a lot of people aren't on board with, but I'm pretty interested in because it makes me re-examine the rest of the film and gives me a bit more to work off of. Another thing I wasn't really feeling was the daughter character, but she does push our main protagonist to limits of forgiveness and optimism that I probably couldn't reach. And some may see that as unrealistic, and you're probably right, but I still think she acts as a good foil for our guy here. So many people who initially saw my list gave me so much shit for putting this so high up. But hey, I had a blast. Now, is the writing super deep and unique? Not really. That being said, it did its job of getting me emotionally invested, and I actually did like the main conflict between Maverick and Rooster. That was probably the strongest part of the writing. Why this film is so high up is that it's just non-stop entertainment. There's never a dull moment in the film, whether it be through the amazing flight footage and the sound that accompanies it, or the satisfactory emotional story. Another thing that works in this film's favor for me is that I saw this in theaters and it's just exhilarating. Tom Cruise even comes out in the intro and he's like, hey, thanks for coming out to the theaters instead of seeing this film on your phone like a dork. And yeah, he's right. It's an immersive experience, more immersive in my humble opinion than Avatar. And the crowd's cheering, they're laughing, we all feel like we're in the cockpit. It's just a great blockbuster experience. As a kid, I only had two nostalgic superheroes close to me, Spider-Man and Batman. And lucky me, those are the only standalone superhero movies today that actually seem to matter. The Batman for me was all about the atmosphere. It's dark and gritty and hyper real, arguably more realistic than Nolan's already realistic Dark Knight trilogy. And you got that dark orange hue over everything, the non-stop rain, the detective work. It really emphasized that noir dark detective element of Batman, which I always preferred over the beat-em-up fighting magical monsters Batman. Riddler was a great choice for the villain, and I liked the whole serial killer aspect they used for him. Admittedly, Paul Dano might have gone a little overboard at the end, but his performance was still great overall. And Robbie Pattinson was a great Batman. I feel like Bruce Wayne should be more Bruce Wayne and less Hot Topic customer, but they might progress his character in later films. And that's another thing, this film makes me excited for where this franchise is gonna go. Unlike the Marvel films, which kinda feel dull nowadays, I'm excited to see where the Matt Reeves Batman goes. And Matt, if you're watching this, please do Hugo Strange as a villain, and don't do something stupid like Clayface. So there were a lot of rich people bad fun movies that came out this year where the overall message isn't something super enlightening, but it's still a great time, so you're willing to overlook it. Glass Onion is probably the best of them because you get that excellent murder mystery whodunit, which, say what you will about The Last Jedi, but Rian Johnson is a great writer when he gets his own universe, and the Knives Out world has some pretty big potential after this. I mean, just keep Daniel Craig and have new casts, new stories, new mysteries, and I'm down for a franchise, which is a weird thing for me to say, but I trust you, Ryan. I personally prefer this film over Knives Out because I felt like the cast was a bit more memorable, and Daniel Craig is kind of a fish out of water in this rich people world just like us, which makes it easy to relate to him as he's stumbling around trying to take in all this stuff. I also like the location a bit more. It's very colorful and exciting as opposed to the kind of drab manner from Knives Out. But yeah, great job, Ryan. Keep making more of these. I saw this movie twice. The first time I had this lady sitting next to me who was trying to legitimately start a conversation with me while the movie was playing. I mean, look, I'm not a cold person. Feel free to come up to me and say hi if I'm out in public, but don't do it in a movie theater while the movie's playing. I don't know, am I the bad guy in this situation for giving one-word responses and brushing her off? Anyway, my first viewing of this was kind of messy because of that, but the second time I really enjoyed the film. First off, performances. With such a simple story at its surface, the actors really needed to go hard to help us see the larger implications. And my god, Colin Farrell is right behind Brendan Fraser as my best actor choice. I mean, look at those sad eyebrows. The film is oddly similar to The Fabelmans in that it has that tension between art and your social relationships. However, Banshees also throws mortality into that blender, which makes it even more complex. At some points I see where Brendan Gleeson is coming from, and at other times I see where Colin is coming from. And that's what I like in a conflict. Seeing the nuance instead of these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. And I think even though I tend to side with one character and viewpoint as of now, I could definitely see my position changing as I age, with my own death coming closer and closer. Overall, it's a simple story with an infinitely deeper debate at play, which is great for general audiences or artsy-fartsy people. So I saw this film all by myself, and even then I was yelling out things like, "Let's go," like you're just rooting for your team on TV. This film is over the top fun. Just like Top Gun Maverick, it's big and loud and entertaining, but what puts this up ahead is that it's also extremely creative in not only its directing, but its storytelling. The film goes all over the place, in a way that isn't disconnected or messy, but in ways that relate to the story but are still fresh. Now, there is a lot of cheese here, but for a film like this, it only adds to the entertainment. There's this great bromance montage where these two dudes are doing just bro activities with this emotional music in the background. It's just great and fun. I don't want to say too much because I went in completely blind and was blown away, and I think you should too. And don't let that runtime scare you. With its pacing, excitement, and fun, you won't ever get bored or tired with this thing. I drove an hour out of town to see this because I'm a big fan of the director Park Chan-wook. And even with that commitment and high expectations, I was very satisfied. Decision to Leave has the neo-noir mystery, but throw in some of the most fun directing and editing along with an insanely erotic and romantic character drama, and it's a very intimate experience. Obviously on this channel, I don't really do videos like this, I make philosophy videos. Subscribe if you're into that. But one of my favorite topics is love, and this film definitely raised some interesting questions on the subject of love. Like, is there a transactional element of love? Do you love people who fulfill some sort of need in your life? Or do you love the person just for who they are? Is a safe, stable love ideal? Or should love always be full of chase and uncertainty? And the dialogue, wow, it's very playful between these two characters, like there's some sort of background 4D chess game that they're playing. You could definitely extrapolate a couple famous movie quotes out of the screenplay. And the ending is very Park Chan-wook, so if you're a fan of his, then you'll enjoy it. Hell, you'll enjoy the whole package, what am I saying? It may not be as crazy wild as his other films, but you're arguably in for a more intimate experience with this one than his other stuff. I feel like if I read the screenplay for this, I'd either feel like it would be too messy and fall apart, or it'd be something really special. Thankfully, the latter was true. I'm not really a fan of multiverse stuff, I feel like that idea has been done to death, especially now, but this film uses it in a creative way that doesn't so much focus on the different universes, but rather the different individuals. The multiverse here makes us reflect on our own choices, and any regrets or aspirations we may be having. But despite all this, we could find solace in our family, friends, and other relationships. relationships, even if we may not fully understand the world we all exist in. It's a very existentialist film, but I think it's also very Taoist in its acceptance of all this calamity, and the emphasis on just being a good person to others that share this experience. For my philosophy viewers, there's a lot to chew on here. As a film, it's a roller coaster of emotions and visuals that stick the landing. What grounds the film is really the stellar cast and the human emotions involved despite all the chaos. This is probably the most teary-eyed film of 2022 for me, as well as one of the funniest, which is a hell of a feat to pull off in the same movie. And out of all the films on this list, if there's one film that's the most show your friends-ish, if that makes sense, it's definitely this one. Everyone seems to like it and find some value out of it, so if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you will too. Morbius is a dark meditation on morality in the face of our need for survival. Jared Leto puts on a groundbreaking performance, showcasing the pain of desire, the desire to... I got you, didn't I? Okay, someone out there had to be fooled by that. For real now though. A lot of people say that they don't like it when their movies or TV shows get political or inject social commentary. I think a more specific reason for this is that people don't like being talked down to or being told what to think, especially when it's coming from these moral paragons. Now, Tar is a movie that deals with socially controversial issues. Issues such as power dynamics, ego, separating the art from the artist, cancel culture, music, and so much more. What makes Tar stand apart is the nuance involved. It simply presents these topics through a deadly realistic character study, which made me think Lydia Tar was a real person on my first viewing. And in terms of Best Actress of 2022, Cate Blanchett brings this fictional character to life, making it completely believable that this is a biopic. She's so electric that even when she's not talking, you obsess over what she's thinking or what her next move might be. There are certain characters in cinema that just stand out. Like, you could find good characters in a bunch of movies, but then you get characters that you know will stand the test of time in your memory. Lydia Tar is definitely one of those characters. It's almost like you're waiting for some bomb to go off in every scene. And look, I get it. You look at that runtime and you think about classical music and you assume that this might be a bit boring. But I was hooked from the opening scene till the end of the film. The reason for that being not only Cate Blanchett and Lydia Tar's character, but also the morally gray situations and questions that the film presents. It's been a month since I've seen it and I'm still going back and forth on these questions and I'm still thinking about what the film raises. The film doesn't give you the answers, but it presents the questions and expects, or rather, allows you to do the hard but fun work. This film might have ruined future movies for me, if I'm being honest. Cause now that I know these socio-political issues can be brought up in a nuanced, thought-provoking way that actually encourages discussion, I'm gonna look down on media that tries to push an opinion on me rather than giving me a means to explore my own conclusions. And with the world becoming more and more political and polarizing, unfortunately we're probably gonna get more of those agenda-pushing movies rather than something like this. But hey, that's my top 10 films of 2022. What a year! I'm excited for the Oscars, not so I can predict what these people are thinking, but so I could root for my own choices, like you're rooting for your team in football. If you like philosophy, then check out the rest of my channel, and if you're already a subscriber and want me to talk more about movies, then let me know. And with that, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day.